morning, everyone, and welcome to Rosslyn Hill Unitarian Chapel, a spiritual home for open minds. I'm Alison Bybee, and I will be leading your service today. This morning, I'm here to tell you my story about my search for solutions to big problems. But first, the notices. We have a creche for children aged 2 to 5 and a children's program, Bright Lights for older children. Babies under 2 are welcome in the creche if accompanied by an adult. If you're watching at home, please join the virtual side aisle at midday. A Zoom link was sent out in the weekly email, and you can find it via the link in the YouTube description. And for those of you who are in the chapel today, do join us for refreshments in the side aisle here after the service. At 2 to 4 p.m., there is a workshop, Spiritual Foundations of Friendship, led by Reverend Kate Dean and Frankie O'Sullivan. At 6 p.m. this evening, we have our regular 30-minute mindfulness. Then at 7 p.m., our evening service will be the wonderful Heart and Soul gathering. You can find information about all of these and all our activities in your service sheet and on our website. You can also pick up a copy of our Open Mind newsletter from the steward's table at the back of the chapel. Our collection will take place during the closing music. You will have an opportunity to make a donation by cash or by card. This month, the offering will be shared between the work of the chapel and our good cause for this month, Médecins Sans Frontières. Let's light the chalice. We light the chalice as a symbol of our free and questioning Unitarian faith. May this flame be as the light of knowledge in our minds and the warmth of love in our hearts. I will light one more candle as a prayer for peace for the people of Israel and the people of Palestine, and in recognition of conflicts that are currently taking place around the world. Whoever you are, however you're feeling, wherever you come from, and wherever you are going, there is a place for you here in this spiritual community. Please turn to someone near you, say your name, and welcome them to chapel this morning. Listen out for the music, which will be your signal that this time of greeting has ended. Thank you, everyone. Let's continue these conversations after the service. Let's sing our first hymn. It's hymn number 43, Gather the Spirit. As is our custom, please listen for the full introduction, then rise as you're able to sing hymn 43, Gather the Spirit. Children and young people today, so I'll read to you a story for all ages. This one is called Last Stop on Market Street. CJ pushed through the church doors, skipped down the steps. The outside air smelled like freedom, but it also smelled like rain. which freckled CJ's shirt and dripped down his nose. He ducked under his Nana's umbrella, saying, "How come we gotta wait for the bus in all this wet?" "Trees get thirsty too," his Nana told him. "Don't you see that big one drinking through a straw?" CJ looked for a long time, but he never saw a straw. From the bus stop, he watched water pool on flower petals, watched rain patter against the windscreen of a nearby car. His friend Colby climbed in, gave CJ a wave, and drove off with his dad. "Nana, how come we don't got a car?" "Boy, what do we need a car for? We got a bus that breathes fire, and old Mr. Dennis, who always has a trick for you." The bus creaked to a stop in front of them. It sighed and sagged, and the door swung open. "What's that I see?" Mr. Dennis asked. He pulled a coin from behind CJ's ear, placed it in his palm. Nana laughed her deep laugh and pushed CJ along. They sat right up front. The man across the way was tuning a guitar. An old woman with curlers had butterflies in a jar. Nana gave everyone a great big smile and a good afternoon. She made sure CJ did the same. The bus lurched forward and stopped, lurched forward and stopped. Nana hummed as she knitted. "How come we always gotta go here after church?" CJ said. "Miguel and Colby never have to go nowhere." "I feel sorry for those boys," she told him. "They'll never get a chance to meet Bobo or the sunglasses man. And I hear Trixie got herself a brand new hat." CJ stared out of the window, feeling sorry for himself. He watched cars zip by on either side, watched a group of boys hop curbs on bikes. A man climbed aboard with a spotted dog. CJ gave up his seat. "How come that man can't see?" "Boy, what do you know about seeing?" Nana told him. "Some people watch the world with their ears." "That's a fact. Their noses too," the man said, sniffing the air. "That's a mighty fine perfume you're wearing today, man." Nana squeezed the man's hand and laughed her deep laugh. Two older boys got on next. CJ watched as they moved on by and stood in the back. "Sure wish I had one of those," he said. They're playing some music and sharing headphones, the two big boys. Nana set down her knitting. "What for? You got the real live thing sitting right across from you. Why don't you ask the man if he'll play us a song?" CJ didn't have to. The guitar player was already plucking strings and beginning to play. "To feel the magic of music," the blind man whispered, "I like to close my eyes." Nana closed her eyes too. So did CJ and the spotted dog. And in the darkness, the rhythm lifted CJ out of the bus, out of the busy city. He saw sunset colors swirling over crashing waves, saw a family of hawks slicing through the sky, saw the old woman's butterflies dancing free in the light of the moon. CJ's chest grew full, and he was lost in the sound, and the sound gave him the feeling of magic. The song ended, and CJ opened his eyes. Everyone on the bus clapped, even the boys in the back. Nana glanced at the coin in CJ's palm. CJ dropped it in the man's hat. "Last stop on Market Street," Mr. Dennis called. CJ looked around as he stepped off the bus. Crumbling pavements and broken down doors, graffiti-tagged windows and boarded-up stores. He reached for his Nana's hand. "How come it's always so dirty over here?" She smiled and pointed to the sky. "Sometimes when you're surrounded by dirt, CJ, you're a better witness for what's beautiful." CJ saw the perfect rainbow arcing over their soup kitchen. He wondered how his Nana always found beautiful where he never even thought to look. He looked all around them again, at the bus rounding the corner out of sight, and the broken street lamp still lit up bright, and the stray cat shadows moving across the wall. When he spotted their familiar faces in the window, he said, "I'm glad we came." He thought his Nana might laugh her deep laugh, but she didn't. She patted him on the head and told him, "Me too, CJ. Now come on." And they're helping out at their community lunch there. So we now sing the children out for their chapel and creche. The words are in your order of service sheet. I invite you into a time of prayer and meditation. We come together in fellowship each Sunday with hearts full of joy and full of concern. If you are holding someone in your heart this morning, I invite you to say their name aloud in the coming moments of stillness so that we may also hold them in our prayers. Spirit of life and love, God of our hearts, we give thanks for those who bring us joy and pray for the safekeeping of those whom we hold in concern. For all those names, spoken and unspoken, may they be surrounded by the loving kindness we offer them today. Blessed be, and amen. Our reading today will be given by Christopher Mason. It's an excerpt from the book The Dead, a short story in a collection called Dubliners by James Joyce from 1914. The scene is the snow is falling outside as a musical recital winds up, and Mr. Gabriel Conroy is called upon to say a few words.
Good morning, everyone. It's good to be here again. Ladies and gentlemen, a new generation is growing up in our midst. A generation actuated by new ideas and new principles. It is serious and enthusiastic for these new ideas, and its enthusiasm, even when misdirected, is, I believe, in the main, sincere. But we are living in a skeptical and, if I may use the phrase, a thought-tormented age. And sometimes I fear that this new generation, educated or hyper-educated as it is, will lack those qualities of humanity, of hospitality, of kindly humor, which belonged to an older day. Listening tonight to the names of all those great singers of the past, it seemed to me, I must confess, that we are living in a less spacious age. Those days might, without exaggeration, be called spacious days. And if they are gone beyond recall, let us hope, at least, that in gatherings such as these, we shall still speak of them with pride and affection, still cherish in our hearts the memories of those dead and gone great ones, whose fame the world will not willingly let die. "Hear, hear," called Mr. Brown loudly. "But yet," continued Gabriel, his voice falling into a softer inflection, "there are always, in gatherings such as these, sadder thoughts that will recur to our minds. Thoughts of the past, of youth, of changes, of absent faces that we miss here tonight. Our path through life is strewn with many such sad memories, and were we to brood upon them always, we could not find the heart to go on bravely with our work among the living. We have, all of us, living duties and living affections which claim, and rightly claim, our strenuous endeavors. Therefore, I will not linger on the past. I will not let any gloomy moralizing intrude upon us here tonight. Here we are gathered together for a brief moment from the bustle and rush of our everyday routine. We are met here as friends in the spirit of good fellowship, as colleagues also, to a certain extent, and in the true spirit of camaraderie.
Thank you, Christopher. Let's sing. Our next hymn is hymn 98, Love Will Guide Us. Please be seated. Let us enter a time of prayer, after which we will have music for reflection, at which time you may come forward to light a silent candle of joy or concern. Spirit of life and love, God of our hearts, as we seek connection with someone or something beyond ourselves, we remain humbled by the awesome complexity of the universe, the miracle of creation, and the grace of the ultimate Spirit. In this time of meditation, let us give thanks for our community and our many gifts by naming our blessings quietly to ourselves in these moments of stillness. Recognizing our woes and faults, let us sit quietly with those parts of ourselves which cause us discomfort, with a spirit of gentle understanding and forgiveness. Spirit of the Divine Self, we open up our hearts to listen to the wisdom of the still, small voice that may speak in these quiet moments. God of our hearts, let this small act of worship send a ripple of loving kindness from this place to our loved ones, our acquaintances, and the wider world. O God, may we become the embodiment of divine love. Blessed be. Amen. One of our former ministers, Reverend Jim Robinson, once told us what life is. Life, Jim said, is a series of problems. A series of problems, that's all life is. I'm sure he went on to say some more on that topic, but for some reason that phrase stuck with me. More than 20 years later, those words still resound in my head, probably at least once a week. Today I have come to tell you my story about a search for solutions to problems. But first, a word about cafes and third places. The history of cafes. The first coffee houses appeared in Damascus in the 15th century and became popular meeting places where people gathered to drink coffee, have conversations, play board games such as chess and backgammon, listen to stories and music, and discuss news and politics. In London, the earliest coffee house was established by Passcode in 1652. By 1739, there were 551 coffee houses in London. Each attracted a particular clientele divided by occupation or attitude, such as Tories and Whigs, wits and stock jobbers, merchants and lawyers, booksellers and authors, and men of fashion. Well, as we know, cafes are still part of the streetscape today. Many of them are part of large franchise chains, though today in the main they are mainly concerned with separating us from our money in exchange for something that we could easily made more economically at home. Despite these drawbacks, our commercialized cafes are still valuable third places. Is anyone familiar with that term, third places? Right. A third place is a familiar public spot where you regularly connect with others known and unknown over a shared interest or activity. Crucially, it is a space that's separate from home and work or school. So first place, second place, third place. So it's a place where people can connect with their community. Third places level out social classes and backgrounds and promote informal conversation. Third places go beyond cafes to include park benches, community centers, and even churches. Here we are in a third place right now. And as we know, we are also able to meet up virtually as well as physically. By now, you may be wondering, Alison, when are you going to get to the solving problems bit? Okay, so let's choose a problem. How about death? Yes, death. It's a problem. No one wants to think about it, never mind talk about it. It's a big taboo. We don't generally welcome death for ourselves or anyone else, but still it's there. It happens, and there's nothing we can do about it, really, except put up with it and endure all the emotions when it comes too close for comfort. A few years ago, our minister, Reverend Kate Dean, announced that Rosslyn Hill Chapel would host a death cafe. Appropriately enough, it was around the time of Halloween. Wait, what is a death cafe? Well, it's a thing. It has a website, deathcafe.com. Anyway, it's a safe space where people can sit down together informally to discuss end-of-life matters over tea and cake. Well, I thought to myself, that could be useful for some people, But not me, no thanks. The last way I want to spend a Sunday afternoon was in a morbid discussion about death, so I didn't. I was aware that it happened every year for a few years. By all accounts, it was a good session. In fact, so good that I heard one participant was upset to be told that she had to wait a whole year for the next one, and so she volunteered to run it herself every month in our chapel. Fast forward to now, and I not only attend most months, but I also often help lead and facilitate our Death Cafe. About 15 to 30 people come every month. There are always some newcomers, some returners, and there really are all ages. We introduce ourselves one by one. We grab a hot drink and a slice of something nice, and we go to tables of 5 to 6 people. Everyone gets 5 minutes to speak uninterrupted. It's timed using a little sand timer. If the words run dry, we simply wait and consider what we have heard until the time has run out. At the end, we return to the big circle and sum up. It's really a joy to hear people sharing, caring, listening, and really taking the time to grapple with their fear and anger and grief. Yes, many do come back for more, and some end up facilitating sessions themselves. As the Death Cafe website says, many feel a deep connection at these gatherings. It provides a space to let us, as James Joyce wrote, still cherish in our hearts the memory of those dead and gone. Well, how about another problem? World peace. What a disaster has continued to unfold, especially in Israel and Palestine. But what can anybody here do? Many are left feeling speechless and helpless. I wondered if we can talk about death. Maybe a similar approach is worth a try with this problem. Back in March of last year, we held a piece of cake cafe here in the chapel to celebrate International Women's Day. It was led by female leaders of local Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Baha'i, and Unitarian. A delightful girls' choir from the Muslim Faith School, Olive School in Hackney, and lots of cake. We discussed how to overcome hard barriers between the faiths. We were encouraged to invite ourselves in and not wait to be asked. And we left feeling that people do have the solutions within themselves to make friends across the divisions, given a chance. Our effort was reported the following week on national radio, on BBC Radio 4 Women's Hour. Another insufferable problem that I struggle with daily is the pollution that burning fossil fuels is causing to nature, our neighborhoods, and our climate. You don't need to be a scientist to notice the loss of insect life, the noise and traffic hazards, and the increased number and intensity of extreme weather disasters. There seem to be only two sides to this coin of human reaction: either denial and even denigration for so-called woke doomsayers, or on the flip side, resignation and renunciation of any personal or corporate responsibility. Can we find a sensible middle way? Unitarians for Climate Justice, U4CJ, is a fairly new national Unitarian interest group. They ran a collaborative People's Assembly-style session at the General Assembly last year and drew up recommendations in consultation with Unitarian delegates from all over the 4 nations. One recommendation was suggesting to our congregations across the nations to organize and host a climate cafe. A climate cafe is similar to the Death Cafe concept. And yes, they're a website, so it must be true. There's even a very nice Climate Psychology Alliance, which provides some training. Climate cafes are varied affairs. Many of them are focused on practical, immediate solutions. But we saw a gap in the market, so to speak, that some people feel defeated and hopeless and need space to express their emotions. Faith and community groups already have those conducive spaces where people come to meet, to think, to pray, and to meditate. Rosslyn Hill got together with our local Churches Together organization, as well as the very active Hampstead Neighborhood Forum. All were very keen. It's much on their minds as well. And we set out to make a start on the Climate Cafe notion with a new monthly Hampstead Community Climate Cafe hosted in local meeting houses, churches, and community centers. The first Climate Cafe was held in September at the Quaker Meeting House. We signed in, collected our piece of cake, and sat on a circle of chairs. I envied their ceiling-mounted microphone and questioned my concept of Quakers as entirely silent beings whilst at their worship. I explained that this is confidential and it was an advice-free zone. We were not there not to discuss solutions today, but firstly to introduce ourselves. Then each person had 5 minutes uninterrupted to say what the climate crisis means to them and how they feel about it. At the end, we went around and gave a one-word summary. Those who had time stayed on, had a bit more tea and cake, chatted, and all vowed to come to the next one. It sounds very simple, and it is. One participant spoke movingly about their garden and their faith, relating the story of Genesis, how God had given us the earth to care for as faithful stewards, not to use and discard. My hope is that people go away feeling they have been heard at least. They are not alone in their fears. And sometimes they may feel empowered to go further, or at least keep calm and carry on in a way that is right for them. I hope they will feel empowered to get on the bus like our young friend in the story and travel to the last stop on Market Street. As a group in the climate cafes, we've seen a growing attendance and momentum with each meeting, and therefore we have just recently decided to continue holding these spaces. So I told you at the beginning that I would discuss the search for solutions to problems. I've told you about 3 different subjects, all trying to be addressed by a cafe type scenario. I've given you these examples and told you how we've expanded the use of our chapel and our community connections to create new third spaces with the purpose of sharing the load and learning how to live with the changes we all face. I did not promise you I could tell you what the solutions to these problems are. Since many of you here are Unitarians, I'm content to leave you hanging with this thought. In searching for solutions to the series of problems that make up our lives, don't forget to live and enjoy that life. Now, you have homework. Tomorrow is going to be a truly terrible day. It is Blue Monday, statistically the most depressing day of the year. Conveniently timed when the holiday magic has fully worn off, your credit card bill has arrived, and the New Year's motivation is, well, missing in action. Inspired by a campaign by our friends at the charity Mitzvah Day, tomorrow your mission is to contact someone and invite them to share a cup of something and a chat with you. In person or over the phone, we can all make a difference. Let's have our final hymn, hymn 124, One More Step. Spirit of life, God of our hearts, may our time together encourage us and give us the strength to face whatever we may face in the coming weeks, and the insight to appreciate our good fortune, that we may become a blessing to the world. Blessed be, and amen. Thank you to John Evans for the music, Ava for the tech support, our stewards, Gail and Claire, and Christopher Mason for the reading. Please join us now in the side aisle for refreshments.